If you want to host a website for dirt cheap, then we've got the steps for you here. There are a few prerequisites, so let's take a look. First, you need VS Code installed. You need Git installed. You'll need a GitHub account with an SSH key configured. There's documentation on GitHub how to do that. You'll need an AWS account, and in order to, at the end of this video, go to yourdomain.com, then you'll need to purchase a domain, and we'll talk about setting that up. So here is our list of steps that we'll be going through. So we'll start with number 1. Set up your GitHub repository. I've partially done that here. So, github.com, and created a public repository. There is nothing in it. It's empty on the remote here. I do have that cloned to my local machine, and I've populated some files in there. So those are not pushed yet. We'll open up a terminal here, git status. So uncommitted, and that's intentional for now. So we've set up our GitHub repository. Move on to number 2, creating our AWS infrastructure. So first, we will go to S3, and we'll go to US East 1, US East 1. You can use whatever region you like. Just pay attention to which one you're using, and we'll plug that in at another place in the video. So our bucket name, www.sandbox. Actually, let's say dirtcheap.ryanboken.com. I don't know if that says I'm dirt cheap, but if I'm not paying a bunch of money for hosting, then I guess that's okay. Call me what you want. We're going to keep the rest of everything default, block public access. That is good security hygiene for your S3 buckets. And it's intentional, and part of the reason we're going through the effort to set some of this other stuff up. Add a new tag project. If we want to clean these up later, I like tagging them. Let's see, dirt cheap hosting, and create bucket. Okay, so dirtcheap.ryanboken.com. Let's go back to our list. Okay, so we have a few other steps. I'll have this description likely linked in the video with detailed instructions. I have them right here on my right hand side. So you've created your S3 bucket. You can also purchase a domain through Route 53. I do like having them stored in Route 53 if I'm working in AWS, just because it's easy to plug them in and search them in the various resources you're working in. We'll see that in just a moment here with our next step, which is creating a CloudFront distribution. And so CloudFront, kind of what it sounds like. If you haven't worked with it before, it's pretty simple. We'll go to Create Distribution, and we like the word free, so we will choose that. CloudFront, I like to think of it as the access point from the open web that you'll use to hook up your domain and your map that to your website, and that is how we will access, and other people will access your website, so to speak. Let's see, distribution name. So let's say dirtcheap.ryanboken.com. You can name this whatever you like, however you can find it best. Let's say demo for dirt cheap hosting. So we'll choose single website or app. Your domain here. I do have a domain in Route 53 in my other account. Let's see if we can check it here. If not, I think we can add it later. Let's see. I think they might want my top level domain. So you know what? I'm going to skip this. You can tag it if you like. I probably would do that if I'm using this as a permanent project. So our origin type, Amazon S3. that's what we just set up before. That's what we'll be, mapping to here. There's a nice browse feature where we can select our bucket, and we'll choose that. We're going to deploy everything to the root, so we'll leave the origin path blank for right now. We will keep the recommended settings and move on, and keep the recommended settings there, or the defaults, and we will create our distribution. Cool. As you can see here, it's deploying, and when you see distribution domain name here, that is what we will use to access it until we hook it up to our domain. Okay, that's to be expected at this point. So we'll leave it deploying here for a moment. Let me try to add my domain here, and let's say dirtcheap.ryanboken.com. So I own Ryan Boken. It's in Route 53. See if we can add that. Okay. It says it can't find a certificate for that subdomain, so we'll just create a wildcard certificate there. See if that will create. Oh, excuse me. Okay, create certificate. All we got to do is read it. Okay, cool. So before we can validate your certificate, you must update domain records with your DNS provider. Wow, okay. I should have just read that initially. Why didn't you say so? Okay, create record. So I'm on my root account right now. In another window, I'm going to go to my subdomain. Or actually, is this a wildcard certificate? It is a wildcard certificate. So we'll just try to add that to, let's see, a CNAME there. Value. And I'm going to set the time to live to 60 seconds to see if it can validate that. And we can enter multiple values on, oh, excuse me, this is the name right there. Okay. All we got to do is read. And by we, I mean me. All right, value. Okay, so let's try to create records here. All right, so I set the time to live to 60 seconds. So let's see if this will validate. We'll park this for right now. So we've created our CloudFront distribution. We are trying to hook that up to my domain and my root account. This should be a little bit easier for you if you're doing it in the same account. Let's see. Cool. It validated. And we'll go to next. Okay. We'll add domains. Cool. And while we were doing that, let's see. It probably deployed this distribution name already. Let's see if that is there. Cool. Okay, so it did, and it's saying access denied to our S3 bucket, which is expected for right now. So what we will do next is check our list. We are going to create our IAM policy. So for number 2, we created our S3 bucket, our CloudFront distribution, and started hooking up the domain. For number 3, we're going to go to IAM, Identity Access Manager, and we'll create our policy. Go to create, so click on policies on the left-hand side, then click create policy. We're going to set up our own JSON here. And if you've pulled down this repository, I should have this for AWS folder and file labeled IAM policy before role creation.json. You should be able to copy this and just update these 2 lines here. So let's go ahead and do that. Just select all and paste. Okay, so our bucket name is, there we go. There's our bucket name. All right. I'm doing this live. Okay, so your account number, it's, if you don't know it by heart, it's in the top right. If you're logged into AWS, and your CloudFront distribution, I definitely don't know that by heart, so I'll just go to the distribution I created and select this up here. It is also in your ARN on the right hand side. So we'll go back to policy and paste that in. And so those two lines should be the only thing you need to update in this new IAM policy. We'll click next. And policy name, we'll name it github-dirtsheep.ryanboken.com. Actually, we'll name it GitHub Deploy, because that's what we'll really be using this for. And let's see, demo policy. It tells us that we'll be allowing 2 services, and that's intentional. We'll tag it. Create policy. And we can verify that it was created by just typing git in right there, and there it is. So we will go back to our list in our README, and number 4, we're going to create the identity provider. So this is a pretty cool concept. I hadn't worked with it much before this, but the OpenID replaces old, username, password, or credential sharing for IAM users, and it allows remote services that support that OpenID to interact with your AWS account using temporary credentials that rotate. So it's much more secure than the older username, key IAM approach. So we'll click OpenID Connect, and we just need 2 things. We need our provider URL and our audience. Okay, so that is tokens.actions.githubusercontent.com. And our audience is going to be sts.amazonaws.com. We'll tag it. Okay, so we've created our identity provider. Number 5, create our IAM role. So we're going to hook everything up, bring everything together by doing this. So create role, and this will be a web identity, and we can select our new provider, the audience that we've configured, and a couple things here. So GitHub organization, that will be your GitHub account. So you can see it right at the top of the screen, I'm Ryan Boken. And my repository here is Dirt Cheap Hosting. So I will plug that in because I want to scope it to my repository. You can configure this a few different ways, and we're just going to be working off the main branch. We'll go ahead and leave this blank. You can do some pretty cool stuff here if you want to take this a little further later on. Okay, so now we'll add permissions, and so that will be the policy we created earlier. Let's see, so with a quick search, there it is. Now we need a role name, so let's say GitHub deploy dirt cheap.ryanboken.com role. You can name this something shorter or whatever you like. So say demo role. And We can check out the trust policy if we want to. Let's go ahead and tag it. There we go. And with that, the role is created. Let's go back and check our README. So after you've done the IAM work, we'll go back to our S3 bucket and update the permissions. So we have our bucket right here. We'll click on permissions. And let's see, we want to edit this bucket policy. So in this for AWS directory, I have this add this to S3 perms as last step .json file, and we see, let's see, 1, 2, 3 lines we need to update once we get it in there. This comma up here, that's intentional, because this statement right here, we're just going to continue the array. So we have this object here, and we're going to paste our object there. Not my favorite formatting, but it will work. You can clean that up if you like. Let's see, your account number. So get it from the top right. And our role name. Okay, so this is just really our role ARN. So if we wanted to, we could have gone here and just copied this. Since I'm already halfway through it, I will just copy the name. So S3. And we'll scroll down. So there are 2 more things to update. It's just the S3 bucket name. And let's see, I have that right here. And it's really just the ARN right here as well. Was it Amazon resource number, I believe, ARN? Okay. Want to be precise here because this will allow access to our root bucket, and then this will wildcard right here will allow access to the rest of the that S3 bucket completely. So we'll save changes. All right, we have that configured. We'll leave that alone for right now. We'll go back to our README. And next we need to add our AWS configuration values to the GitHub secrets, which is a lot easier than it sounds. So we will go back here to our GitHub repository. We'll click on Settings and Secrets and Variables on the left-hand side. Go to Actions, because we'll be using GitHub Actions to complete this deployment workflow. New repository secret. Okay, so we just need a few things, and again, I'll have this linked in the description to the detailed steps. I'll go ahead and combine number 8 here as well. In number 8, we'll be setting up this GitHub .github/workflows deploy.yaml. And we will go through that in just a moment. But the 3 things that you'll need here, you'll see these variables, secrets.aws role ARN. So we were just working with that, so we know where to get it. We'll go back here, and it is the full ARN it would like. Add secret, and once you add these, you can't view them again. So just take your time and be careful while you're adding them. The next one is the S3 bucket name. The important thing to remember about S3 bucket name here is we just want the name. We don't need the full ARN. And the third secret is our CloudFront distribution ID. And let's see. So we only need the ID. We don't need the full ARN. And we know that's up here. So we'll copy and paste. It's also in the ARN. And paste. So with that, we have satisfied number 7. We'll move on to number 8, which we've already looked at a little bit, but we'll take a step back and walk through it. So on line 6 here, you can change this if you're using another branch. For the steps, I want to check out the code. We're going to configure the AWS credentials. We're going to sync our files to S3, and then we're going to invalidate the CloudFront cache. So that allows CloudFront to serve up the most recent files that we've just added to S3. Really important when you're making changes. And if you're working in a region other than US East 1, you'll want to change this. So we have steps 1 through 8 completed. I think we're ready to test the workflow. So what we'll do here is we'll go back to our code. We see this is still empty. I just want to make sure I'm setting my master branch to main. Okay, so we'll say git add everything. Let me close this, and I'll move this over so we can see this a little bit better. Git status, check everything's staged. Git commit, an initial commit of site, and deploy pipeline. And it's pushed. So with that, we can go over here to Actions, and we see that it's already cruising. And this should complete in just a few minutes. Actually, just a few seconds. I believe earlier it was completing in about 15 seconds. Yep, 14 seconds. So, does that mean we can go here? Oh, access denied still. And that's okay, because what we're going to do is go back to our CloudFront distribution and click Edit. We need to set a default root object. And in this case, we'll check our repository. That's a static site, so it's just index.html here. We're keeping it simple. And let's save that change. And we'll reload. Ah, okay, that's expected as well, because we have to wait for it to deploy. So while it does that, let me check out the alternate domain names. So if you click Route Domains to CloudFront, it gives you these 2 records that you need to add to your hosted zone in Route 53 in order to route, dirtcheap.ryanboken.com to this distribution domain name that you're not going to want to give out to people. They're not going to remember that at all. So still deploying. So in the meantime, let's check out dirtcheap.ryanboken.com. Okay, and I'll go back here, and in my root account off to the side, I'm going to create a record. And if it gives you any trouble, just select alias. Let's see. So we'll alias to a CloudFront distribution. And in our distribution, let's try to add that. And we'll create record. Okay, so that worked. So if it gives you any trouble, just click alias. And I'll set up my IPv6 in the meantime as well. So change the record type. alias route traffic to CloudFront distribution, and copy and paste your distribution in, then click create records. Okay, so we'll wait for that to update, and while we've been doing that, our changes have been deployed. So let's see if this is working now. Cool. That is what we have in our index.html. So the cool thing about setting up something like this and going through the extra effort is to easily deploy updates and do that in a professionalish manner, because we don't want to be taking these files every single time we change them and going into S3, uploading them here, then going over to CloudFront, going to invalidations and create an invalidation. We want to automate that, and that's really the key word here, is just automation. Okay, so git add, git commit, update to index HTML. And with that, it's pushed. So let's go to our GitHub. The action kicked off. Last one took about 15 seconds. This one probably will as well. And once that deploys, I'll go ahead and check it here in the CloudFront domain. And also, we'll want to see if we've successfully configured our subdomain here. And you can use just your, root domain. But for development activities, I like, configuring a subdomain. Cool. Our update has been deployed. Let's see. Nice. There's our automatic invalidation there. And we'll check our CloudFront domain. We see our update online on the open web. And let's cross our fingers and see if this worked. Oh, it doesn't look like it likes my subdomain here. So what do we do when something like that goes awry? Okay, so after a lot of research, figured out the very technical problem was lack of patience. So when configuring your CloudFront A record in your Route 53 domain hosted zone, the time to live isn't able to be configured. It's just implicit, I suppose. So after a few minutes, it was live. So we have it here. And just as a recap, I'll have this repository available in the YouTube description. The detailed steps will be on Substack. If not, they will be, linked here in the description of the video and in the repository. But they will be all of the little details and sub points of these steps 1 through 9. The cool thing about this is it's using free or very cheap services, and it should really only add up to a few bucks a month. So pretty powerful for the cost. Well, thank you for watching.